Hello, everybody. Welcome into the Casual Sports Podcast. As always, I'm Alec Caberna, and that is Mike Wolfgang. Mike, how's it going, man? We had a great Game 3 last night when it came down to Boston and Golden State. Going to get into that here in a minute. Baseball's been going crazy. We're getting a lot of shakeups going around. We got NHL going in tonight, and you're going to catch it all here on the podcast here in the next hours we take over the network. So let's go ahead and start this off, Mike. NBA playoffs. Thoughts from last night's game?
I got a lot of thoughts that are mixed. We were talking before we came on the air that Golden State had their big third quarter, and they didn't win, and that's something you don't see. They usually ride that wave, stay afloat, and then they hit you in that third quarter, as we talked about yesterday. But my big thing is they didn't get any production really from the point department from Draymond Green and some other guys. That's number one. Number two, they didn't rebound at all. It seemed like every shot that went up for Boston, at least half of them, you're getting offensive rebounds. So that's going to cut down the lead. They lost by 16, I believe. So that's gonna cut into that too. So if they can get things better in the rebounding department, that was a big reason why they lost last night.
Huge reason why they lost. I mean, Boston's offensive totals for rebounds were half of Golden State's total rebounds in the game. And to have that be a major factor, Golden State's not going to be able to win if they can't rebound. And there was something that the broadcasters kept saying a lot in that game last night, and Steve Kerr never did it, but making the switch from Draymond on the floor and putting Jonathan Kuminga or taking Looney off either one and putting Jonathan Kuminga out there to work with that athleticism that Boston brings to the floor each and every night. Because you look at the Celtics lineup and they are very athletic. Robert Williams was a dog last night on the boards. He was fighting for everything in that game. So was Al Horford. Those two guys were big pieces. And Kevon Looney, he's a good center, and he's going back to the average numbers we've seen out of him the rest of his career. He's not having a similar performance that he did in the Western Conference Finals. And a big thing for me, I think Steve Kerr needs to make that change up down at Jonathan Kuminga. They want this guy to be a future star for them. You got to let him have a chance to shine. You're down 2-1 now in the series. Game 4, Draymond Green is looking like a liability here on the road. He's 2 technical fouls away from being suspended for a game here in the postseason, and he got fouled out of last night's game, which isn't something you want to see. Tempers have been kind of getting the best of him. You see him flaring up. I think the refs have been very gentle with Draymond Green because he's been giving them an earful, and this is the regular season. Draymond Green is getting probably ejected out of each and every game so far in this series with the way he's snapping back to the refs, and I'm surprised they haven't tried to give him one, but I think the refs are wary with the fact that he is only 2 away from a suspension, so they're kind of playing him back a little bit, but he's been playing dirty, and he only has 5 made baskets in these 3 games so far. If you can point out one factor where Golden State is not winning these games, it's Draymond Green. And not to mention 11 points in the fourth quarter isn't going to do you any favors either.
Yeah, and I think the big, as much as he's not scoring, we know he's not a big scorer. We know this, but he's shown in the past he's able to do enough. Right. And I think in game 2, that was not only he didn't score much.
Game 2 was fine, but 1 and 3 have been terrible for him.
2 was fine. I think he had 9 points or something.
Yeah.
And it's really not. We know this. It's not so much about the point department with him because we know he brings other things. But game 2 is probably his best game. But he, if they want to win one on the road, which they're definitely capable of doing, but if they play like they did last night, it's not going to happen.
I mean, considering your best 2 players nearly combined for 50 points, Wiggins went off for 18 as well. Jordan Poole even had double digits. And you still lose by 16 points. There's clearly something wrong, and that's normally going into what's something wrong with your starting 5. If you have 4 players doing all of that, combining for really the majority of your points, and you're not getting them anywhere else. I mean, there's, I think, some clear change-ups that need to be made to Golden State's line, and I hope Steve Kerr doesn't wait too long to change those, because if he goes down 3-1 and Boston takes another at home, you can pretty much chop the series up, because with how good Boston's been on the road, I don't think Golden State is going to make a 3-1 comeback if they fall down in this series. Not with what we've seen already out of Boston here. Taking one in the Chase Center, now back here at the TD Garden. They're looking like their old self. And this was the Boston that we saw in that Miami Heat series, winning quarters and playing their brand of basketball. Jason Tatum, I'm loving it, man. I was saying he's the key to this team, and there he goes again. The Beantown was Browntown last night because he was rocking this place. And I believe I believe they said at the end of this game, this was the first time in like 20 years or something, or 30 years that a group of starting five had three different players hit 20 points or more in it. I think they said it was like last time was with Kareem, or I think back in like the 80s or something, 70s or 80s. So it's been a long time. And to have Marcus Smart go back off, I know Draymond after game one was saying Marcus Smart's not going to do that again, and he was right at game two. But now 2 of the 3 games, Marcus Smart's gone big. He's clutching up right now, and I love this for Marcus Smart because he's been a guy that I think we all kind of criticized for years on his lack of offensive scoring, and here he is on the biggest stage showing everybody, oh, I can score, by the way. I'm really good at it too. If I actually, put the pedal down and I get my shots, I can score with the best of them, as he showed here in this game. But he's so much better on the defensive side, and his defensive impact is huge in this series. And I mean, I don't think that impressed more than last night. There was turned into an offensive rebound, a huge dog pile on the floor. Steph Curry ends up injured, but at the heart of it all was Marcus Smart diving in there, trying to keep a possession alive for Boston. And I'm going to make a comment about that play when I believe it was Tice down on the ground with Steph Curry. That right there should have been called a jump ball. They let that go way too long, and I really don't know why, because you don't let dog piles happen in basketball. And there was a clear moment where Tice has his hand on the ball, Steph Curry's got his, and then another Warriors player kind of dives into Tice, and that's where the real injury, I think, occurred with Steph Curry's left knee out there when he was down there for a minute. Holding that lead and limping around. I don't think it was necessarily Tice jumping on him. I think it was the Warriors player that then jumped on the Tice that really pressed that into the floor. So I think that was a very avoidable moment, and I'm still not sure why that wasn't called the jump ball. But I think all in all, this was a phenomenal game. It had every run that you could ask for. Boston started off amazing. And Mike, what did I say? Take that first quarter. Even if it's just by a little bit, take that first quarter, get that crowd in there, and then second quarter, Golden State starts coming back. They make this nice run. Then Boston goes, hold on a minute. Crowd starts getting on them. And then they punch it down going into halftime, win the second quarter. They win the first half, and that's the most important thing. I think that came out of this game. They won the first half, and they did it by 12 points, and that's nearly what they finished the game in. And the third thing that I had said yesterday on the show, we both did. Survive the third. You don't have to win it. You have to survive it. And they did just that. Then they came out, closed it in the fourth quarter. Their boys were hitting shots. It was really a phenomenal game to watch. And I didn't get to see much of the first half. I saw the last 8 minutes, I think, of the second quarter. But the second half, from what I saw, phenomenal basketball. I know you guys were saying there were some questionable calls, especially in that first quarter and a half a little bit. I thought, especially once they hit halftime and beyond, I thought it was a pretty, I'll say, clean game from the ref side. They weren't making great calls down in the entire game, but I thought it was fairly balanced. I think this was the most balanced called game I think I've seen in the series so far.
Couple things. It's just, I'm in the split. If I'm a Golden State fan, I'm kind of, at this point, this is normally your mindset anyways if you're a fan, but I'm kind of encouraged and discouraged from last night. Discouraged for the reason is because that Klay Thompson finally got going. That's what I was talking about yesterday, and they lost. But the big thing is that, if they cut down those rebounds, which they can, if some of these guys in Game 4, we got to see it, because the thing with Boston is, I talked about this yesterday, is their consistency. Marcus Smart had a great game. He had a great game in the first game, didn't play so great in the second game. So that's my big question mark, and that's a good thing for Golden State to keep in mind. But, if they can cut down some of those things, because every time they made a big run, there was just something that Boston did. They got an offensive rebound. They got block or steal in transition. They scored in transition. So just tighten those things up, which Golden State can, because they're led by a good coach. You get yourself in a good position to win Game 4. But that's a big if. You actually have to go out and do it, because they're going to keep feeding off that crowd. And that's what Boston did all night long last night.
Yeah,
Golden State won on the third quarter run. I was sitting there. They took a 2-point lead, 82-80. I was like, Golden State's going to come back and win this. And Boston's crowd just got excited.
Wasn't it Marcus Smart who drilled the three to give them right back the lead? 83-82?
I believe
and
so.
It was just that moment right there, and I went, Golden State can't win this game. There was just nothing was going their way in that.
And it was a bank shot too, I believe.
Yeah, it might have been. I don't remember. But, I mean, to have Marcus Smart come in there and shoot like that, it feels like game plan right now in these first 3 games for Golden State. Go ahead and let Marcus Smart have those open looks. We'll let Al Horford have open looks on the outside. We'll let those guys. We're going to double team Tatum. Tatum, he's not going to be allowed to drive. We got to double team him when he drives. It really didn't matter because Jason Tatum figured out his role last night, by the way, 26-9, also pulling down 6 boards. Love that performance from Tatum. But they're focusing in on Brown and Tatum. It's not doing much defensively. And I think the game plan needs to change going now into game 4. First 3 games, they went, all right, Marcus Smart, we don't need to worry about him offensively. Going into game 4, you've seen Marcus Smart go off in 66% of the games you've seen him in now. Time to change up that game plan and attack Marcus Smart, because at this moment, you take away those 24 points from Marcus Smart, Golden State is now leading this ball game by 8. That is a huge change up, and even if somebody else is getting half of those points, it's still now a 4-point game instead of a 16-point game. Taking Marcus Smart out of the equation, I think, is going to be the next step for the Golden State defense, because down 2-1 in the series is not panic mode, but you're still on the road. So for me, you do have to make those change-ups now. You can't wait until you get back to the Chase Center. You got a day in between. You got to attack right now. Figure out how to stop Marcus Smart. And I know that sounds like the weirdest strategy to have, but from what we've seen, when Marcus Smart is on, this team has won both games. I mean, same can be said for Jaylen Brown. When he's been on both games, they've won it. But I think Marcus Smart right now, he's kind of created a different mindset, because you knew who the two were going to be. You knew it was going to be Brown and Tatum. And there's been question marks. Who's going to be number 3 for Boston? Marcus Smart has stepped into that role. Now you need to make him step out of it. Force him out of it. Force him to get that ball somewhere else. I think at the moment, I let Tatum get his. I'm stopping Brown and I'm stopping Smart. I'm not double teaming Tatum anymore.
I agree.
I'm pulling off that. If my big wants to come in and collapse, that's fine. I'll let Robert Williams and Al Horford get some on their own. I'm not letting Brown and Smart kill us on the perimeter again. You just can't do it.
And I agree with that part of it.
Tatum came in, one of the other guards or forwards had to pull in with him, and that created open looks every time. That's why he had 9 assists, and it probably could have been more if the guys were actually hitting even more of the shots. I mean, they were already shooting it phenomenal from the field, 37.1%, 13 made threes. They have been either even or just behind Golden State every single game in 3-point percentage. So I'm loving Boston is playing this series perfectly right now.
And I agree with that part of it.
Is a perfect series for the Boston Celtics, because Steph Curry has been amazing in all 3 games. He's done great things in all 3 games, and it does not matter.
I agree with that part of it too. Is making my whole focus on Jason Tatum right now, because they showed last night they were trying to double team him, trying to force him some ways, and he was still getting the basket like it was nothing. And that adds to that's advantage Boston right there, because even though Robert Williams is hurt and playing with only one leg pretty much,
and he's still dominating,
and he's still playing well. And now, is that going to be consistent? I don't know. And I'm not trying to keep doing that with every Boston player.
In Boston, I think it's going to be consistent, because you saw game 1. I mean, I think in the series it's going to be consistent, because I think Robert Williams has an edge over Looney and over Draymond Green. We saw it all night last night in the first 2 games as well. Robert Williams, if he was dominant, I don't know if Golden State would have won game 2 if Robert Williams is actually healthy in this series. But even at 75%, he's still the best big out there on the floor in this series. Well, and that's why they get Al Horford. But the dominance we've seen out of Robert Williams in the paint, I think, has been huge for creating waves of momentum for Boston.
I'm not trying to do that with every Boston player. I'm just saying with him is because he is playing very hurt. He's playing through, we didn't even think he'd be back for half this playoff run, and he did find a way to come back. So that's why I'm bringing that up part of it, because
surgically repaired knee.
Yeah, so he's fighting through that.
And he tweaked it a little bit last night as well, too.
Yeah, it's different with the player that's not, like I said with other players on Boston that, you question their consistency. But with him, it's going to question because he is playing hurt. But and to your point, though, even if he's playing, just being out there, that is advantage to Boston, because just him being out there, Golden State, outside of Looney, who do they have that's going to match up with him?
They tried to have Green, and he just doesn't. He cannot match the physicalness of Robert Williams. He can match the aggressiveness of Robert Williams, but when it comes down to just raw size, Draymond Green is just slacking a little bit in that department, and that's not a dig against him. That's just Robert Williams kind of has an old school center type feel to him.
Yeah, and that's
so does Al Horford, by the way, and I love that. I love the Boston bigs right now.
I do, yeah, and that's the other thing too.
Grant Williams as well, I believe. He came off the bench a little bit.
He had a couple big
10
threes.
points and 5 rebounds. I was liking what he was doing. He was getting some foul trouble though, and I'm interested to see what they do with him in the rest of the series.
I just think for Game 4, the biggest thing for Boston is to come out, or I mean for Golden State rather, have a better start because they started out like what 12-2 the score was or something like that,
Yeah.
and have a better start and stay out of foul trouble early because Steph Curry had 3 fouls at halftime, I believe.
Yeah.
Draymond Green had like 4 at halftime. I forget what Clay had, and those are all their big players. So
I think
stay out of foul trouble.
At 3 as well.
Yeah, I think they were all at least at 3 at halftime. They're big 3.
Right. It was either Thompson or Poole that had 3. I don't remember now.
It might have been Thompson or one of the
they all had fouls.
It could have been both actually.
I wouldn't have been surprised. There was a lot of fouls, and I know a lot of people are going to come out and say, "Oh, those were cheap fouls. They shouldn't call those." Well, they did. So if that's how the thing is, you have to play to how the refs are going to call. If the refs are calling ticky-tack fouls, then you have to know that they're going ticky-tack, and you can't go in and play your normal style. It's all about making those adjustments. It's not always adjusting to your opponent. It's adjusting to how the refs are calling the game. That's at every level, every sport. If refs are letting you get away with something, you expose that. That's what made James Harden great for so many years in the NBA, is because he was able to take advantage of the rules put in place for him. And that's something I think you have to see in these NBA finals, and what have made great teams great is being able to adjust to how the refs are calling the games. And if Golden State can't make those adjustments, they're going to be falling behind, because Boston's had no trouble making those adjustments to how the refs are calling the game. And I thought Game 3 was pretty even when it came to foul calls. Maybe a couple, especially down the stretch, I think may have gone a little bit more towards Boston's side. But again, we kind of pointed this out in Game 2. Points in the paint for Boston versus Golden State. And Golden State was huge in points in the paint in Game 2. Game 3, they got outscored 2-1. It was 52 points for Boston in the paint, 26 for Golden State. And you can't do that. That is bad basketball.
Yeah, and you're going to get the benefit of the doubt. Golden State got it at home too. And, with some of the
that
calls,
was a big thing. Golden State got those calls in the stretch. In Game 2, Boston gets it here.
And, what, like you said, they called it, whether it's good or bad, they still called it. You still got to live with it. You're in foul trouble. But some of them, if I'm Steph Curry, I'm sitting there like, come on. Like, there was the one I believe I texted in the group chat. He's going up to set a screen. White's guarding him. And White's literally on his hip. Like, there's nothing going wrong. They're not touching each other. He's just running up to the screen with him. And he just falls down. And they call it a foul. Like, Steph didn't even touch him. So those are the ones that, like, I know you're going to get some questionable ones, but those are some of the obvious. And it's been on, Boston's got some of these, Golden State's got some of these. Both teams have had this. Yes. But those are some of the ones, like, just let that stuff go. Like, the guy fell down, nobody touched him.
That's some of the things that I wanted to play on, but I think we have to realize the refs aren't going to do that. They haven't done it in the series. Yeah. I think we're at the point we have to stop expecting it, and I think you have to expect it to happen. Going into Game 4, if I'm Golden State, Steve Kerr knows how to make the adjustments. He's been in tons of these situations before, whether when he was with, the Bulls, or when he was with Greg Popovich, or even when he's been coaching on his own. He has been in situations like this where momentum's going against him. He's got to find a way to make those change-ups. And I think this is part of the problem they had back in that Toronto series when the Raptors won back-to-back games. I think Golden State struggled to make the change-ups because they're so set in their ways. They're set on playing a certain way. And when that way doesn't work, I think it exposes a couple of holes within this system that Golden State has designed over the last couple of years. So Game 4, they got to make adjustments. No, refs aren't going your way. You're on the road in the NBA Finals. Refs do tend to go towards the home team. You're going to get those calls back at Chase Center. You're not going to get them here in the TD Garden.
It's like I said, it's just a part of where you're playing at. It's just consistent. It's not going to be that way the whole series. It just depends on the venue. I would say it's right or wrong, whatever, but it's just the way it is. It's been that way forever. And these ticky-tack ones that, Golden State got, you're not going to get on the road. Even some of the ones that, like I said, that Steph Curry is all frustrated about, which he should be, that were not fouls and they weren't even considered fouls in the regular season. But now that they're just in that spot and they're looking at everything, that's going to get called. But I agree with you that part of it. They got to come out and be aggressive, but not be overly aggressive, if that makes sense. Like, know your limitations when you're trying to overplay a passing lane or trying to box out somebody, because you put yourself in trouble. If Golden State didn't, I don't know if they would have won, but if they would have had less fouls in the first half, you could have like Steph Curry. They brought him out with like 4 minutes left in the third. If he didn't have 4 fouls, they probably would have left him in just the rest of the game because he was hot in that third quarter with Klay Thompson, both of them really. But
a big reason, they took Steph out was that injury, and I do have an update on it. This was from an hour ago on CBS Sports. Quotes came from Curry. He will not need an MRI, or so they currently believe. He's scheduled to attend their practice here tonight. And so long as everything goes good, he's ready to go for game 4. He said it felt like a mild foot sprain after the game, and he claims to be all right, and he says he's going to be ready for Friday. So that's a good sign for Golden State right now. They're going to have their guy back.
Which you expect, because I know it's just cautious reasons because it's around the foot area. He's had a lot of ankle injuries in the past, so I get that part of it. To me, it just didn't look. I think Al Horford's the one that fell on his leg. Like it was either Al Horford or somebody else, but that's just part of you're getting on the you're diving on the floor for a loose ball. It's just part of it. You're going to risk something. You're going to risk somebody falling on you. That's part of it. Yeah,
Horford.
Yeah, that stuff's part of it.
And then Poole jumps on Horford, which I think only made it worse.
Yeah, and nothing happened to Horford, correct?
No, Horford's fine.
Okay. But yeah, I expected Steph to be okay. It didn't look that bad. It's just somebody fell on him. It's probably just hurt him for the rest of the night.
Yeah, and then there's been a lot of wary moments with Steph Curry so far in this series. I mean, it was game 1, he looked like he had tweaked his ankle a little bit. Game 2, I think he was fine, but here in game 3, he gets landed on by Horford, and Horford also gets under his shooting area, and Steph Curry comes down on his foot. That one I don't think was purposeful because they were both coming at each other. They just were crossing paths. Horford was trying to close out. Horford, by the way, defense positioning. Boston needs to find a way to get Al Horford out of the pick and roll scenario. If Golden State's running the pick and roll, I'm taking Al Horford off the floor. No way am I allowing Al Horford to go one-on-one against Steph Curry at any point in this postseason. It is a recipe for disaster. That's what allowed Steph to have that big third quarter. It's because Al Horford completely forgot Steph Curry could shoot the basketball.
Yeah.
Which I don't know how you do. Al Horford's been here long enough. He's played with phenomenal shooters. I think he's played with both Ray Allen and Kyle Korver, two of the best shooters we've had in a while. He's played against Steph Curry the last 8 years. He should know at this point that Steph Curry can absolutely sling it.
Yeah, and he can. And I know, they're trailing in the series right now. They still have a chance to win it. Whether they win it or lose it, I think we can finally put the conversation that Steph doesn't show up in the finals. After this finals, he is
right now he's rated number 1 in terms of finals MVP, but I don't think he'll end up getting it because we don't normally see a losing team get the finals MVP. I mean, LeBron had the best case for it a couple of years ago. I mean, he was absolutely phenomenal, and they still gave it off somewhere else. So, as the losing member of the team, and it hasn't happened since 70s with Jerry West. So he was I think the one and only guy that's got it as the losing team. So I don't think Steph Curry's going to get it if they don't win this series. I think it's got to go. Honestly, at this point, I would say Tatum number 1. But I got to go Marcus Smart number 2. He has been a key for this team. And I would say Steph Curry would get it, in my honest opinion, with Tatum at the 2, Marcus Smart 3, probably Jaylen Brown 4.
Well, yeah, because
I think those have been the most consistent guys so far in this postseason.
I mean, outside of that 2015 series. Golden State championship, most of the time your best player wins it, outside of Andre Iguodala. But I just think...
Still don't know how that one happened.
Yeah. Because he played good defense, so what?
Did he, though? LeBron still had a triple-double, and he had 30 points a game. I don't think that's great defense. LeBron had better numbers in that final series than he did in the regular season.
To me, the reason they gave it to him is because it just seemed like when they inserted him that game forward, they didn't lose after that. So, I don't know. I don't agree with it. But I think the thing with Steph is that whether they lose this series or not, he's still playing great. He's still gonna play great the rest of the way. And I think if he plays great and they lose, people are gonna say, "Oh, well, he played great, but it wasn't good enough to win." I don't care about that because look how many times LeBron's played great and they just didn't have enough to win.
Yeah.
So I think we can really, for me at least, I never really questioned the way Steph plays in the finals because he's had loaded teams around him. That's not the reason he's won because he won before KD got there, but he's had some. If he kind of like Klay Thompson this series, he started out a couple games bad, now he seems to be getting back on track. Steph's had some series like that in the finals, but I'm not going to sit here and act like he's never performed in the finals.
Steph Curry has been the guy though in this series so far.
Yeah, he has been
the big thing right now.
Yeah, and I think for anybody that's out there looking for a way to still say he doesn't play good in the finals, there's really not much to support that.
Yeah, no, I can't see that. In fact, I've never thought he's been a bad finals performer. He's
I don't know where this. I keep seeing this on I know it's not accurate stuff on just
Twitter.
idiots on Twitter, but
Yep, Twitter.
in other places too, and some commentators too that say this on talk shows. I don't know where this stuff came from, to be honest. Maybe it's just something to talk about, but like the guy's a 3-time champion. Like you don't just win 3 championships on accident and not playing well.
Right.
So,
and he's also this is now his 6th NBA Finals appearance. So
yep.
He's right up there, just trailing LeBron by a little bit in that department.
Yeah,
you got a better win percentage at the moment too. So,
yeah, 3-2. I think. Yeah.
I mean, that conversation is not a conversation for me. I think the biggest thing I want out of Game 4 is for at the end of the game, Golden State Warriors players need to shut their mouth.
I agree.
I mean, every single game they have something to complain about. Something, we didn't like this. And after Game 3 was Draymond Green and his wife didn't like that the Boston crowd was chanting F you Draymond with fans in the arena.
I got something for that.
Are you serious? We hear that same crap in the Chase Arena, in Oracle Arena. I mean, I think they were chanting F you LeBron at one point back in the NBA Finals a couple years ago. This is Boston 1. This is Boston 1. If you don't think those kids are hearing that at home, you don't know what Boston is. And 2, grow a pair, man. You're a grown man. You're almost 40. Get over the child stuff. This is ridiculous for Draymond Green and his wife to come out and say, "Oh, well, they were swearing with children around." Is that really the biggest takeaway you got from Game 3? That tells me I don't want Draymond Green in my starting lineup in Game 4 because he's nothing more than a child right now out there on the floor and a complete liability to my defense.
I'll respond with this, and this goes for Draymond. This goes for every single NBA player. Every time, we saw it with Kyrie in the first round, Boston fans got after him. We've seen it with other players in the past in other cities that guys got after him. And I know whether they're saying stuff that's right or wrong, that's a different story. And we've seen this in baseball with people throwing stuff on the field. Any sport. You knew this when you became a professional athlete, that people are going to get after you. I don't know where this came from this generation of these players that they're so sensitive. Like, just ignore it. Like, I know it's hard when there's 20,000 people screaming at you, but just, who cares? You don't know these people. They don't know you.
Especially F you.
Yeah.
Okay, everyone has always said that, Draymond. What's different now?
Like, does he think that people aren't saying this behind the scenes, that people aren't at the game? Like, I can get off the show right now and say it to you right after the show. Like, does he think people around the planet aren't saying this about him behind the scenes?
Yeah. I don't know where this, came from. I'm like, we know Boston's a vulgar city. They've had traditionally some of the most vulgar fans in the history of sports. And, I mean, we still see that in the Boston Red Sox found organization. I mean, it's every game over there, and this isn't something new in the Boston city. They are very chaotic sports fans over there, and that was one thing, Alf, last night. I just wanted to say that was kind of ridiculous for me that he was going out there and throwing all this out. Number 2, after every game, Golden State players, they always got something to chat about, right? And it's all over Instagram, all over Twitter what these guys are saying. In this series so far, 3 games, Boston's won 2 of them. I've heard maybe 1 or 2 comments out of the Boston camp. They're talking, but they're answering simple media questions. They're giving the correct responses. They're not causing drama. Golden State right now, they're playing like a bunch of drama queens.
Well, and you know what? The last, 5 previous times they've been in the finals? Yeah, 5, 4 against us, 1 Toronto. I know they kind of made a comment that year the Cavs won about LeBron, and then LeBron went off. But other than that, you really haven't seen this. I don't know where this has come from them. I know
where it's coming from. A bunch of these guys think they're all this. Draymond Green's one of them. Who's being quiet? Steph, Clay. The 2 guys that have actually done something are the ones being quiet. It's all the kids, Jordan Poole. It's the young guys they bring in, and Andrew Wiggins. It's Draymond Green, who thinks he's the best thing since sliced damn bread. He ain't. And it's all these young guys that think they deserve something because they're on Golden State. Golden State, most of you guys, you don't deserve a damn thing. You have to go earn it. This is the NBA. You think those players over there in Los Angeles deserve to be called the best in the world just because they're playing on the Lakers? No, they earn those titles. You think those guys on the other side in Boston just deserve the right to be called great because their franchise is tied for most titles in the NBA's history. And by the way, they're about to take the lead again because they're going to kick your butt because you don't know how to focus in on a ball game and you're too worried about your post-game podcast. That's our job, the podcast, not yours. These kids think they're entitled to being, something more than they are just because they're on a big franchise that's been good here in the last couple of years. These kids haven't been here for it. Your team's kids that you've been on these last 2-3 seasons were the worst in the league. You got carried because you got 2 Hall of Famers, the best backcourt in the history of basketball right now in Steph and Klay Thompson. These Golden State kids think that they deserve the world because they're playing on Golden State. That is the biggest difference in this series right now, is Boston knows what they are. They know they've gotten their butts kicked the last 12 years since they won that 2010 title and their team finally split up. And they've started this rebuilding process, and they're back here now, and I expect them to be here the next couple of years. They've taken their lumps. They know what it's like to lose. This Golden State team, these kids don't know what it's like to lose. They just expect to win because when they got Steph and Klay back, they won. And now they get to a spot and they're like, why aren't we winning? Oh, well, I don't know. Let's keep talking instead of doing. Shut your mouth and play your role.
I just go back to the sensitive part of every athlete. Well, I don't care what team it is in every sport. I know you don't like things stained against you. I get that. But you knew this when you became professional athletes. That people are going to get after you. This is just for Golden State. This is for every team in every sport. Right. You're seeing this every... I'll just sit out and stuff like that. If I hear stuff like this, well, you're a professional athlete. I know it's easy to say money doesn't buy happiness and all that, but you knew this when you worked all your life to be a professional athlete to make all this money, and you're going to cry over somebody that's saying something mean to you.
And not just that. We know what era most of these young guys came up in. It's been this Twitter era the last 10 years. Have they not seen what has been said about James Harden, Russell Westbrook, Kevin Durant, LeBron James, Steph Curry? The list goes on and on in the last 10 years. How about Kobe Bryant has been absolutely, dragged on the last couple of years. There was the incident. People loved him there for a minute. And then as soon as the mourning process was, coming over, all the haters came right back in. These people know what the league is now. They know people are haters. And this isn't even just the last 10 years. I mean, you go back to Steph and Draymond. Look what era their parents grew up in. They know what to expect. Bill Russell, who won titles, if he didn't win, he would have been hanged in the street of Boston. This isn't something new to sports. Players have been threatened with their lives the entire history of sports. Getting this worked up over an FU Draymond, and just in general, I think is laughable. And I hope that we hear more legends come out of the woodworks and just go grow a pair. This ain't half the crap that we had dealt with. You think Muhammad Ali was getting upset over FU Ali? No, he was getting death threats. Draymond Green ain't never faced that kind of adversity in Golden State. He's been the bad guy.
Here's the thing is, he... Not just him. I know he's the most recent one that said the last couple of days, but there's how many other people. That's why
I'm pointing out, because Draymond's right now, right here.
Oh, I know. But I'm saying him, and there's been other people past and present that are still playing, people that just retired that are saying, they're tired of people comparing this era to the previous era in the 80s and 90s. The big difference is, okay, like you said, people got death threats back then. People, all this other stuff, and you want to act like you're so tough that you could have played in that era. You can't even handle a chant. You can't even handle a chant.
You can't handle a Twitter comment. Most of the time.
Number one, there wasn't Twitter back then. Right. So I know there was less to deal with, but crowds were way more.
Every paper across the United States claiming that Muhammad Ali was a terrorist.
Yeah. So you want to sit here and act like, oh, I can out physical these people in the 90s, which maybe Draymond can. I don't know. We don't know that. We haven't seen him play in that position, but you're going to sit here and act like you're so tough. And not just him, like I said, I'm not just singling him out, just him right now. And you can't even handle a chant from somebody. Come on. This is the part that I'm saying. And then you say Kevin Durant with all these Twitter accounts. Now every single time somebody says something bad about him, he goes after them. Okay, newsflash, not everybody's going to say something good about you, no matter what you're doing with your professional athlete.
Newsflash, he got swept in the first round.
Yeah, whether you're a pro athlete, whether you're trying to be media people like we are, where you're trying to be a doctor or something. People are going to say bad things about you no matter what you do. Just deal with it. Whether
Yeah,
it's
you
right
think
or wrong.
everybody liked Michael Jordan in the 90s? I don't
Yeah.
think so.
Just shut up and go play. I don't want it to sound like that because I know that's been controversial, but just go do your job, and that's how you shut people up.
Right.
So
that's how Bill Russell survived the 60s. He went out there and did his thing, and then when it was time, then he made some noise.
Yeah.
There's a difference to me, by the way, in what those players back then did when they faced adversity. Back then, they formed entire protesting groups and shut down leagues and formed unions between different sports organizations to make a difference back there in the 60s and 70s. They were on the front page of news articles making history. And now these guys think they're doing the same thing because they wear a t-shirt.
Yeah.
They think, oh, we're standing up for something bigger than ourselves because we have a t-shirt on. Okay. Sure.
I'm just gonna leave it at that. I agree with you there.
If these players want to make a difference, go make a difference. Wearing your damn t-shirt ain't gonna do a thing.
That's what I keep saying, and it's
like you weren't right now wearing a Mahoning Valley Scrapper shirt. You're wearing that shirt. Are they gonna win? Are they gonna win their next game? Maybe, maybe not. But it doesn't matter if you're wearing the shirt or not, because the result's going to be the same. Whether these guys are wearing shirts against gun violence or not, it's not going to change a thing unless somebody actually goes and make a stand.
Exactly. And just
the actions speak louder than words. Words on your shirt, fine, cool, spread the message out there, whatever. But if you think you're doing your part because you're wearing a shirt with that big of a platform, that's laughable.
That's the thing.
We'll make change.
I think, that part of it I 100% agree with, because they can sit here and say, oh, we're just wearing the shirts to bring awareness. What is awareness going to do? That's not going to change anything.
I think there's enough awareness. I think we know
we all know what's going on. I don't need a shirt on the NBA Finals warm-ups to tell me what's going on. I know what's going on.
Exactly.
And yeah, I don't know. It's just I don't want to. I'm not, because I wasn't alive for the last era, but it just seems like, whenever you say something good about a player, I appreciate you, my boy. Thanks for saying good things about me. The moment somebody says something bad about you, not even bad, just something that you may not agree with, even though they're right, they just freak out. Like, people are going to say things that you don't agree with. It's just going to happen.
Yeah. Coming out in Game 4, getting back on point here. I want Golden State after the game just to shut up. One game, just shut up and stay focused. Don't argue every call with the refs. I'm looking at Draymond on this one because he was giving Scott Foster an earful in last night's game. Every single call, he was over there having a full-on 5-minute conversation with them.
I agree.
Just want it to, going into Game 4, just quiet down. Go out there, focus in on what you're doing, live with what the calls are, and go win the game, because you can't fall down 3-1. Time for talk is over. It's time to play.
And the part you're saying is this. I know Golden State cries a lot, but literally, and this is what I saw this yesterday, a clip from, I forget what show it was on ESPN, but JJ Redick was on there talking to Stephen A. Smith, a couple other people, and they're saying, we're not saying your era is soft, but the amount of crying this era does of every single foul call, if you watch every game across the whole season of the NBA, regular season and postseason, there's not one foul call where there's not one player in the ref's face. Shut up and go play. Like, you're going to get fouls calls that you don't agree with, just keep it to yourself. Go play the game.
I don't mind if they throw up the hands as they're running back.
It's every single call if you watch.
Yeah, I know, but I don't mind it so much if they kind of say something as they're running back down the floor. But get back. Don't stand down there and talk to the refs as the game is still going on, because they only ever hurt their teams when they do that.
Yeah, especially in transition.
Exactly. Yeah, but Game 4. I just want Golden State to settle in. I mean, I feel like we're asking too much out of this team that we know can perform at this level. And for some reason, the mental aspect that we've seen out of Golden State, every time they've been in the postseason, gone. Completely gone. The mental edge that they've carried with them throughout their dynasty run is gone. What they've had in this postseason, that mental edge, gone.
I agree.
Golden State, right now, they're being beat down by Boston, who right now believes they are the better team, knows they're the better team, and they're playing like the better team. Throw numbers out the window at this point. Boston's the best team in this series.
Yeah, and
And right now, they're about to prove themselves as the best franchise in the NBA. And I hate Boston, by the way. This ain't me being a Boston fan. I hate Boston. They are my least favorite team in all sports. But yet I still somehow picked them to win the NBA Finals. I don't know why I did it back at the very start of this postseason. I went Boston's my Eastern Conference team. You picked Golden State. I hate both teams. And yet I picked Boston. But they're here. They're doing it. Time for talk is over from both sides at this point. It's time to clutch. It's a 2-1 series. Next game probably decides a lot. Well, next game decides a lot. Because either goes 3-1, in which we've had one comeback, or Golden State has a chance if they tie it up at 2.
Listen, as much as we pretty much beaten Golden State up in the show so far, which they should have. Yes. They should be right now, especially after last night's game, after the game last night. But if I'm betting on them to bounce back with a game, they have to win this game because they're going to go down 3-1. It's only been one team that's come back from it. I just
was a victim of it too.
They were involved in it. Yeah.
They know what it takes to lose the 3-1, and I don't know if you're going to get all that from Boston because we haven't seen it. Maybe the one thing for them in that department, if they do fall down 3-1, Jaylen Brown has been nursing that shoulder injury, and it looks like it's bugging him more and more as he gets more and more physical with Draymond. In Game 4, I don't want to say put a target on Jaylen Brown's back or shoulder is what I should say, but I think I'd probably put Draymond on Jaylen Brown in Game 4 and just see if you can aggravate it a little bit. Not go out there and injure it, but if you can bump around with him a little bit, just make that sore. Make Jaylen Brown sore and kind of maybe knock him out of his rhythm a little bit. I think that'd be a big step defensively for Golden State. They got to find a way to take somebody out of the rhythm, and if you can just kind of stiffen somebody up in one of their joints, that is a huge shooting one. It might be enough to take Game 4.
And
I'm not going out there advocating to injure somebody. I'm just saying, go poke it a little bit. It's like when your buddy's got like a shot in the arm or whatever, and you just kind of give him a little jab here and there. Yeah. You're not doing it trying to injure him. You're just doing it, give him a little bit of, just keep reminding him that it's there. That's all I want Draymond Green to do in that, or whoever's guarding Jaylen Brown. Just go give him a little jab here and there when you're fighting down the paint. Maybe give him a little bit extra. Just remind him that shoulder pain is there.
And if I'm Golden State or a Golden State fan, like you said earlier in the show, it's you don't have to hit the panic button yet. Golden State or Boston did their job and got one on the road. They won last night at home. Now it's Golden State's time to respond, and they definitely are capable of doing it. I'm not giving up on them yet, but they got it. You finally got Clay going, and you lost last night. So it looks like he's going to be performing this way. We don't know. He might go through another slump, but just based off last night, you got your 2 stars shooting the heck out of the ball again, like they had done their whole career. So if you can just get Draymond doesn't even have to score 10 points. Just go back to scoring 8 or 9 points like he did in Game 2. Jordan Poole's just got to get a little bit more. And they potentially could have won that game last night if they would have tightened up the rebounding department and actually boxed people out.
That was the thing as well with Draymond saying he could body some people in the 90s. I don't care if you could body him in the 90s. Do something here in the 20s. Because right now, Robert Williams made you look like this, you know what?
Before we get out of the NBA here, we're in the NBA Finals and we're sitting here talking about, I could have played back then. Focus on right now what you're doing.
We're in the NBA Finals. I don't care what you could have done 30
years ago. We don't care. Just go box people out now. You're not playing back then. You weren't able to play back then. You weren't old enough. Who cares?
Yeah. All right. Well, 44 minutes in, we're going to jump out of the NBA finally here. Probably quickly move to the NHL before we get into some baseball. We have Game 5 going tonight, series tied. Mike, when we talked this one a bit yesterday, I don't have anything much to add, at least on my side. Not sure what you got. But I think I got to stick with the home team winning. It's kind of felt this way whole series so far. Home team seems to have an edge. I think I'm kind of pulling a little bit more for Tampa at the moment, coming off the last 2 games at home. But New York played great at home to start this postseason out. So I'm going to go New York in Game 5. I'm
going to be spoiler alert and try to just break this trend here because at some point they're going to have to lose a game at home.
Right.
And if I think there's between any team they played so far in these first 3 series they've had, if anybody I'm betting on, it's going to be Tampa Bay.
Not your own Pittsburgh Penguins?
They didn't do it. And I wasn't confident. That's why after they lost,
we're not confident in that series. Even when you went up 3-1, you're just like, they're going to lose this somehow.
Well, I was feeling good, but then after they lost,
we're like, I don't like something here.
I was feeling good after they won up 3-1, but after they lost Game 5, I was like, nope, they're not winning because they're not going to win in Game 7 in New York. But If anybody's going to do it, it's going to be Tampa. I think. I'm not guaranteeing it, but I just feel like I think they found something in those 2 games at home. They know they
Yeah.
started sluggish in Game 3, but I feel like since that point they found something here, and they're actually playing. Like I said yesterday, that they're actually playing hard in the way their style of hockey, not just going out and playing just because they're the Tampa Bay Lightning, 2-time champs. So I think it ends tonight. The streak at home for New York.
All right, we'll see. They've gotten what, 8 in a row right now at
Yep,
home?
8 in a row.
Seven or 8 in a row. So we'll see if Tampa can break that streak. I'm interested to see, but I got to pull home right now because it's felt like the way Eastern Conference has gone just this entire NHL postseason. It's been home team, so I'm rolling home again.
Well, the whole playoffs in general, really on both sides.
Yeah,
it's been the home team, and
outside of Colorado, they can win on the road. Which what makes me so confident about them going to the Stanley Cup Finals. They can win on the road.
I don't even know. I know we'll talk about it more once we actually find out who they're going to play, but I don't even know if it matters who they're going to play.
I don't know either. They've been too dominant.
They have been.
Well, we'll find out. Let's move into baseball here to finish out the Thursday edition of the Casual Sports Podcast. Baseball, Mike, last night, Shane Bieber, second fastest ever to 700 strikeouts in his career. He has taken over that spot. The only guy to do it faster was Yu Darvish, who did it in 87. Shane Bieber just did it in 93. So a couple of games last. Give credit to Yu Darvish on that awesome record, by the way. But yeah. Shane Bieber, man, he has really started to ramp up here in this season. Looked like he was off to a little bit of a slow start right at the beginning of the year. I'll say that. No, he started off good, went through a slump, I think, in that month of May. There was a little bit of a slowdown in general for Cleveland, and I think pitching took a step back. Hitting took a step back. They stormed back, though, especially here to start the month of June. I've really liked the direction that Cleveland has gone since we started out the new month. And, of course, they've been battling the elements this entire season, which sounds like something we've been dealing with here in Youngstown as well. But in the last 10, they're the best team right now in the AL Central. And having Shane Bieber getting back into his rhythm, I think, is only going to help this team out. I mean, despite the fact that it may not have even been the best season so far for Shane Bieber, he's still in the top 10 for AL Cy Young right now. So to have that mark in there, I think, is huge. But you look at some of the other pitchers up there, this is actually a really competitive pitching division when you talk about the AL Central, because 4 out of the 10 guys in the AL Cy Young Awards odds list right now come out of the AL Central. Dylan Cease and Lucas Giolito from the White Sox, Tarek Skubal from the Tigers, and Shane Bieber from the Guardians. They're the bottom 4 guys. And the Blue Jays, Yankees, and Rays have 5 of the other ones. Then the Astros have Justin Verlander currently leading the AL race, but still.
I mean, when you look at, we've talked about Verlander a couple times this week. When you're looking at this next generation of pitchers, Shane Bieber's going to be the top of that, if he isn't already. He's been in the league for the last couple of years now. He's been one of the best since he's brought up in Major League Baseball. But this whole generation is coming into these new pitchers. Some of them are going to be coming up in the next couple of years. It's going to be headline.
My God, I got to say, Shane McClanahan might be the one taking it over.
Well, he's up there, yeah. I mean, those
he's
guys
only
are up there.
25 years old.
Yeah, he was having a great year. He had a great year last year, too.
Yes, he did. Shane Bieber is 27. I know Alek Manoah is still, I believe, pretty young. Manoah's 24. Yeah, so, I mean, I just picked out 3 guys out of this list right now, and they're all under 28.
There's just a lot of good pitching coming up. That's going to continue to come up. That's already up. That's on its way. This might be a pitcher's generation. I know we keep talking about all the home runs that are being hit. All these guys are coming up with power. But when guys are swinging for the fences, it's going to cause a lot of strikeouts. So we're going to see a lot of good pitching coming up.
Yeah, I think we are, and I really like the way that's going, actually, because I know they've been talking about it feels like a pitcher's league these last couple of years, but I think this is the first time that it's really hit the stats. It's really hit the stat book, and I kind of like the way it's working, actually, because for the first time, it doesn't seem to matter what Major League Baseball is going to do to change up next. It feels like they're going to pitchers are still going to have their way.
Yeah. It's just the way the game's going. When you're swinging for the fences, you're going to have strikeouts, you're going to have a lot of bombs hit. So you're going to see weird numbers, but there's already good guys that are coming up. So it's just going to continue to get, depth-wise the starting pitching position. And I'm a guy, I do like the traditional way of baseball. I like to see good pitching games. I like to see low-scoring games because that makes you want to earn it. So that just goes to the way that baseball is. When games are tight like that, one swing of the bat changes everything.
Yeah, it does, and I'm interested to see how it continues to work and go further into that. But other baseball news: All-Star ballots now officially open.
Yep.
Phase 1, June 8th through June 30th. You can have 5 votes a day. So go put your favorite Guardians and Pirates players out there on the list for you, and that one there for you, Mike.
Thank you.
Final voting comes down July 5th, July 8th. So got to get those votes in now. This year's All-Star game out in Los Angeles. So got the lights out there. Got to put the Guardians and the Pirates out there on notice because a lot of young guys out there. I'm sure they'll be well represented in the younger prospect games as well because they both have some pretty good farm systems coming up.
I'll tell you what, the last couple of years, these All-Star games, I've been tuning into those future games.
Yes, the future. I love that presentation they do because it is such a great way to introduce, I think, fans all over the place to our next generation.
Yeah, and I especially for my team the last couple of years that's been acquiring a lot of young talent, I want to see it on display and things like that. So I definitely tune in for that. Because you don't get the opportunity to watch these guys a lot in the minor leagues because their games aren't broadcasted too much. The games aren't on the radio, or you can't. Maybe some
Unless
websites
you're
stream
in
them.
that town, you're not getting it on the radio.
You're not going to see it too much, and you might be able to see it on their websites, but live. But that's not rare. Or I mean, that's not common that you could do that.
You can tune into the Mahoning Valley Scrappers broadcast though on your sports networks for every game of the season. So go ahead and make sure to do that.
Watch them. You can watch it on the website too. You can actually watch it or listen to it.
Yeah, you can watch it through YSN on the Mahoning Valley Scrappers website. So
yeah, so
make sure if you want to catch that, go ahead and do it. It's right there. But Mike, we've got a new best hitter in baseball right now, and he's once again playing for the Houston Astros. Yordan Alvarez is absolutely balling out right now. 17 home runs, a 1.025 OPS, and a 195 WRC plus with it, which is your weighted runs created plus, which accounts for a bunch of stuff. Basically, just means that he's good. And
yeah, that's what I was going to say.
Basically, all these stats, if it's up there, it's good. But this one basically just says if you're able to hit a home, if you can hit the ball this far, you would have been able. It just adjusts for the differential in the stadium size. Basically, is what it's doing with those numbers. It's a very odd baseball equation, but he also has the highest XBA right now in baseball, highest X slugging in baseball, highest XWOBA in baseball, and he's also got he's right now on pace to have one of the best XWOBA stats of all time. He's currently in first place by a while in the last 6 years. Freddie Freeman 2020 season currently ranks number 1 with a .466. This year, Alvarez is .497. He's going to blow this stat out of the water. He's been awesome for the Astros this year.
He's been a guy that's been good in the middle of the lineup the last couple of years, making deep playoff runs. And I don't really need. I'm a guy that really goes by eye test more than stats. I know you're a big stat guy, but this guy's good. All those stats you just read off.
I like stats because it can show you some consistency.
It's just a way to back up that somebody's good. But
right.
Most of the time when a guy like him, they're good when you just watch them. And the guy that hits for power, the guy's huge, and he's just good in the middle of the lineup. They lose guys, the Astros, like I told Matt the other day, they lose guys, and they still have guys that are going to get it done. And they're still getting it done. And he's a big part of what they do.
Yeah, he has been, and it's exciting to see, I think, at this point, because he definitely continues to show that he belongs up there right now with some of our best players in baseball, and I think he's finally starting to garnish some of that respect. I mean, getting an article written like that on MLB.com, that's no small feat. You got to be making some noise to get an article out there to get published by, the Major League Baseball's official page.
Yeah, you got to be doing something good because there's tons of guys to write about now.
Yeah.
There's a lot of guys, especially just one league, the American League too. The league that he's in. You got Aaron Judge, who's probably going to win the MVP, who's had a great year, and then you got guys like behind him that aren't even, Jose Ramirez, who has 50-plus RBIs that could win a normal year, win the MVP. So you got to be doing something good to get that and get recognition.
Yep, and other big news for Cleveland, our number 6 prospect, Nolan Jones, will return to the lineup here, I believe actually. Last night he returned to the lineup. They're going to have him playing out in the outfield. He's coming off left ankle surgery. He is normally a third baseman, but we just locked up Jose Ramirez for a while, so he's going to be making a position change, most likely into the outfield for the foreseeable future. Mike, I think it's big bringing back a top prospect like this. There's a couple other guys that are starting to make some more noise down as well. Angel Martinez, playing for Columbus right now, had multiple home runs back on the June 5th, and Valera had his 8th home run of the season back on June 3rd up down in the Akron Rubber Ducks farm system. So it's been a very exciting farm system right now for Cleveland, and considering they're 26-26 right now, only 4 games back out of first place of the AL Central, despite the fact that they have 7 less wins than Minnesota, which I think is a little odd, but I think we have tiebreakers against them. Cleveland's in a great spot to take over the AL Central, and with the farm system they got going, it's not too shocking to say Cleveland is in a big spot in these next couple of years to once again take over the AL Central.
And that's the thing between both local teams that we're sandwiched in between with Cleveland and Pittsburgh. They both have really good farm systems right now. They're both top 10, or at least top 10, maybe top 6 or 7. And by the way, speaking of Nolan Jones, to get off track a little bit, if you buy tickets to the Scrappers game tomorrow night, you can sign up to get a free Nolan Jones bobblehead.
Well, there you go.
So,
or you could just watch it on your sports network right here.
Well, why not go to the game? There's fireworks too, I believe, tomorrow night. So,
well, you can go to the game, then get on your phone and listen to the broadcast.
Put the headphones in like Steve Bartman back in the Cubs days.
You know, I've been to a couple of like football games, and I always see people with those little mini radios.
Why not?
Listening to the broadcast.
You know what? Sometimes there's been Cavs games in the past. I just mute the TV and just listen to Tim Alcorn on the radio.
Yeah.
Because on my phone, I have the app and it's synced up right with the TV, so it's not like it's delayed. Works perfectly.
Pretty nice guy he is as well. I met him last year.
Yeah, I got to talk to him too. He's great.
Just about out of time. Before we go, got to mention Angels drop now 14 in a row. And Mike, your division has been terrible this week. Every single team in the NL Central lost last night. Milwaukee's lost 5. Chicago's lost 3. St. Louis and Pittsburgh have lost 2 in a row. Cincinnati now down to 1 in a row, which I just got to point that out that they're the only division of baseball right now where every team is on a losing streak.
It's not a good division.
It really is not, Mike. Sorry to see. On the bright side, if your team ever becomes good, it should be yours to take.
I've been saying this. They play with my mind a lot, but I've been consistent saying the last couple of years. I think I finally got my dad to get on track. They're bringing up a lot of young guys. It's gonna happen soon. Trust me.
Is it ever gonna be Pittsburgh's year?
No.
That's gonna do it here for the Capitals Sports Podcast. Button might be wrong eventually. We'll see it, but that's gonna be the show. Matt Morrison's gonna come back tomorrow. I've been Alec Burnett. That's Mike Wolfgang. Power Hour up next on your Sports Network.